Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. First, let's start with Pityhatke. The Ukrainians, as we discussed in the previous video, made a lot of attempts to attack the Russian positions in the settlement by the name of Zhiribyanki. The Ukrainians were trying to attack the Russians from the north. They were trying to attack through the forest between the settlements, and the Ukrainians were trying to attack from Pityhatke in direction of Zhiribyanki as well. The total number of forces from the Ukrainian side that were involved in that operation was around 1 battalion, so something around 400-500 soldiers. Mainly those were the forces of 128th Mountain Assault Brigade. The Russians reported that they have repelled every single attack and that they haven't lost even a single square meter on this bridgehead. The Ukrainians were forced to step back towards Lapkova, Stepova for regrouping and to prepare themselves before another wave of attack. It's very difficult to understand the level of loss of the Ukrainian side, but as we discussed in the previous video, probably after a few weeks and another few weeks of clashes, the Ukrainians will be forced to replace this 128th Brigade with someone else. Now we are moving to Bradley Square, to Orechov bridgehead. The Ukrainians currently try to develop their bridgehead and their positions in the vicinity of Nistyryanka. There, as you can see, they have moved their focus from Robotyne a little bit to the west and in direction of Kopany. The main purpose of the Ukrainians is to establish control at this stage of special operation over these first trenches and just to maintain the bridgehead and secure their own flanks before the next offensive operation in direction of Robotyne. The Russians report that they still controls Robotyne. The Ukrainians also made few attempts to attack the northern part of Robotyne, trying to encircle or even to attack in front. All those attempts were repelled and the Ukrainians were forced to step back towards their main positions that currently the Ukrainians have right in front of Robotyne along these trenches, along these forest lines. When talking about Avdiivka tactical bridgehead, there are no changes, I have updated this map. I have updated the bridgehead in the vicinity of Pryiutne. A few days ago there was a video of Russian armored vehicles that were located in this area and like between this forest line and this forest line and this intersection of forest lines. And today we got another video, and this video was published by the Ukrainian sources, and the Ukrainians are saying that this is a video of a failed attempt of the Russian forces to counterattack. So as you can see, this video is geolocated. The Russian tanks were heading from the south to the north, from bottom to top, and they were attacking in direction of this yellow cloud. The thing is that on this video it's very difficult to understand whether the Russian tanks were destroyed by some man-parts like javelins or the Russians got onto minefields. Anyway, as I understand, the Russians were attacking from this area in direction of these forest lines. So basically this territory on the south of Novoselivske and on the east of Livadne are under Ukrainian control. So we have updated this map, and currently the Russians controls just the northern forest line of Pryiutne. When talking about the entire situation, the Russians reported that Ukrainians reduced the level of activities, probably because of the heaviest losses during the previous days of offensive operation. Some sources are saying that Ukrainians are doing some kind of regrouping. Some sources are saying that the Ukrainians don't have power to continue on this bridgehead, so we'll see. Just a few days left before the NATO summit, and if the Ukrainians are planning to attack these days, one of these days, the Ukrainians will try to do this, if they are going to do this ever. Now we're going to Marinka bridgehead. Today the Russians published, the Ukrainians, published another video of Kamikaze attack. This video is not accurately geolocated because it was very difficult to understand. This fresh video, so it was very difficult to understand where exactly this situation happened. But as you can see in the video, the Russians launched the personal armored carrier and he was moving very slowly. At some point of that operation, the Russians left this carrier and started running away, and this carrier continued moving without a driver in direction of Ukrainian fortifications. There was Ukrainian fortifications, and at some point, as you can see, the Russians managed to get later there was a very heavy explosion. The Ukrainians are saying that that was like a failed attempt because as a result of that attack, the Russians haven't managed to reached the main defense line and haven't managed to capture the positions, and the main reason of that is the very slow speed of that personal carrier fully loaded with explosion. Very interesting updates are coming from Avdiivka. Both sides try to attack and counter-attack and to improve their positions. Today the Ukrainians published another confirmation that they maintain the gray zone between Krasnogorovka, Veselaya and Avdiivka, and currently the Ukrainians continue regrouping before the next attack in direction of Veselaya. Probably we're going to see this attack within the next maybe even hours, and of course direction of Krasnogorovka. From the other side, the Russians reported about their attempt to attack in direction of this fortification. The Russians tried to attack on the line between Kamyanka, Krutaya Balka, and to capture this fortification, this very important area. And if the Russians can take control over this small bridgehead, then the Russians will be able to continue advancing. They will be able to maintain the gray zone, they will be able to maintain the combat line, and after that the Russians will be able to continue their offensive operation in direction of Avdiivka and to try to encircle the Ukrainian forces who have their positions inside of the forest, in front of Kashtanov, in front of Yakovlevka, in front of Spartak, so the southern part of Avdiivka. So both sides attacks, and it's like a game, and the game is about who is going to lose before, the Russians on the north or the Ukrainians, let's say, on the south of this area. Now we're getting to Klishchiivka bridgehead. Yesterday in the evening, almost at night, Russian blogger Rybar, military expert Rybar, reported that the Russians, by the evening of the 6th of July, as a result of counteroffensives, managed to return positions over every single fortification and trenches. So basically, the northern part of fortification, the western western part of fortification, this one, and this one were returned under Russian control, and the Ukrainians were forced to step back. But the thing is that, as I understand, so what does it mean? The most important from this piece of news is that the Russians, according to this blogger, managed to return. What does it mean? That means that during the day, during the 6th of July, the Ukrainians did have possibilities and managed to enter every single fortification and to capture them. And as I understand, just from my own logic, the Ukrainians managed to capture, but they didn't have enough of time to dig in deeper. So maybe it was very late, maybe this situation took place, let's say in the evening, and the night was coming, so the Ukrainians took a decision not to risk, and they returned back towards their more reliable positions. Today, I believe they will restart these attacks, and today they will try to capture these fortifications earlier, because any time the forces, when capture this or that bridgehead, they need some time to create their own fortifications, to put their own mines, to put their own defense belts, and so on. So today we are going to see the re-beginning of that operation. And the Russians also published another very interesting video, but on the southern flank. There was a video of the usage of FAB 500. This video is geolocated, and as you can see, this bridgehead, this explosion took place very far from the Klishchiivka front line, and this is the area where 24th Mechanized Brigade operates. We see that maybe the Ukrainians were trying to attack in direction of these fortifications, in direction of Zaitseva. Maybe the Ukrainians were trying to cross the channel and to attack Kazaryanovka in the back and to encircle the Russians in Kurdyumovka-Zaryanovka sector. But the Russians managed to discover the Ukrainian forces, and they attacked them using FAB 500 missiles, bombs. Also, we got another video from Kriminaya, and this video shows how the Ukrainians were bombing and shelling the Russian positions. So basically, this is just the videos that geolocates the combat line, the front line, and basically we see that this area was taken by the Russians, and currently this territory is under Russian control. So as you can see, there's like a very rich network, a trenches network. The Ukrainians were trying to bomb, to shell this rich network, and after a few like waves of artillery attacks. As you can see, there are even tanks. After a few waves of attacks, the Russian forces took a decision to regroup and to change their positions and not to stay under Ukrainian artillery fire. So on this video, we're going to see how the Russian forces took a decision to regroup, or at least they moved some forces from these positions towards more reliable positions in the back. Just the video confirming the geolocation of Russian positions in this area. As you can see, the Russians, according to this geolocation, are very close to Bilohorivka, and basically this very important bridgehead to develop their attacks to the south. Of course, the Russians can't use tanks or heavy armored vehicles to attack Bilohorivka, but they can send commando squads to the south, trying to cut as much as possible supply between Grigorivka and Bilohorivka, and to help the Russian forces to advance in direction of industrial area and Bilohorivka itself from the mainland, from direction of Lysychansk. More updates are more interesting updates are coming from Novoselivske. The fog of war has a little bit disappeared upon this territory. So the Russians, according to the same military expert Rybarį, the Russians during the previous days attacked Novoselivske, managed to capture railroad ways, managed to capture the few streets of the Novoselivka itself. The rest of Novoselivske is in the gray zone, and as we discussed, as I told you, the Russians managed to develop their bridgehead to the south and to capture the forest lines, this area, and to develop closer to Stelmachovka. For now, I can't tell you for sure whether it's a real offensive operation or it's another attempt from the Russian side to maintain the gray zone before the greatest Ukrainian counteroffensive, because from one side we see that the Russians attacking, but from the other side the sources are saying that Ukrainians, for example, continue accumulation of their forces, and it looks like they're planning to attack with a very powerful attack fist in direction of Svatovo-Kremenная. So we'll see, and we will get the answer to this question, I believe, very soon. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.